Well, hello. Here I am again. We're at the beginning of week 3. This week, we really begin to focus on the question of faith development, which is foundational to talking about spiritual development and eventually talking about ministerial formation. But last week, we looked at the human condition, the biggest picture kind of concept at this point about what it means to be human. Human nature, who we are, how we are, and what characteristics and so forth, personality, and human agency, whether or not we can actually do anything about anything that goes on in our life or whether it's all fixed and set up. Today, building on that, I'm going to begin to talk about faith development, but before I get there, I want to talk briefly about human development. It's basic, it's fundamental, and it could take a whole session of its own, but we really don't have time to do that. And I think it's probably the idea that most easily grasped of all of the things we've been talking about so far. Clearly and obviously, humans change. We change. We grow. We develop. All I have to do, all you have to do is look at pictures of yourself as a baby and at various stages along the way, right? And we see ourselves growing. We change. We get taller. We get bigger. We get whatever we get. And eventually we go bald. Clearly, physiologically, I'm not the same person I was when I was a 2-year-old, nor am I the same now as I was when I was 50. And that obviously applies to every human being on the face of the earth. So humans develop physiologically, but we also develop intellectually, socially, emotionally, and so forth. One definition of human development that I really like, a bit unusual definition, but I think it gets really kind of the big picture, says the process of enlarging people's freedoms and opportunities. Human development is the enlarging of people's freedoms and opportunities and improving their well-being. Human development is about the real freedom of ordinary people to decide who to be, what to do, and how to live. Obviously, this quote takes us to a really important understanding of human development, which means if we weren't developing, our freedoms would be limited. The difference between a 2-hour-old baby in the arm and a 2 or 3-year-old toddler when it comes to their personal freedom and dependency is considerably different. And as we grow, assuming we're growing and developing in healthy ways, that sense of freedom and opportunity increases. The challenge is that human development can be assisted or it can be thwarted. I, for example, may be chronologically aging, but I may be emotionally stuck. I suspect we all know persons who are 50-year-old adolescents. There may also be physical challenges that impact my intellectual development. So in general, we say that humans grow up. Humans change. Humans mature. Humans learn to speak. Humans become individuals or not. And our human development, as well as our understanding of human agency, have direct impacts on our spiritual development. That is, our faith development. My ability to read and to engage what I am reading directly affects my ability to understand what I'm reading. Put that in the context of studying the Bible. And we begin to see how significant our development is in terms of our spiritual development. My introverted or extroverted personality will affect my sense of what it means to mature socially and therefore impact my ability to navigate life in community, in a community of believers, also known as church. Now, Erik Erikson, one of the early thinkers in this more academic approach to understanding human development, taught that human personality develops through the successful or unsuccessful passage through a set of stages from infancy to adulthood. Erikson maintains that our ability to achieve those stages will positively and negatively affect our personality development. While this is far too complicated to go further with, Erikson, along with other thinkers in the field like Piaget and Peck and Maslow, agree with the concept, although they may define and set the stages differently. What matters here for you and us in this course is to gather a good understanding of these two basic ideas that are connected to human development. One, human beings develop and grow, regardless of one's sense of agency. To be human is to develop well, that is, to progress through the challenges of growth will inform every aspect of the development of our lives. Number two, human beings get stuck in their development, and that stuckness will inform every aspect of the development of their lives. Then you might ask, what does this have to do with faith development and spiritual formation? Well, in a nutshell, everything. As already indicated, this week we begin to focus on the primary intent of the course, spiritual formation and faith development. Although truly everything we have considered to this point is also part of thinking about and practicing spiritual formation. There is a narrated PowerPoint for you to watch, which will go into this in more detail. It's an introduction to faith and faith formation in the context of spiritual formation. I also spent some important time there considering James Fowler's approach to faith formation and how it relates to spiritual formation. We will begin reading Parker Palmer's Let Your Life Speak. There also is a short video kind of intro to Palmer. In Let Your Life Speak, we see one person's struggle with faith formation. Enough about that for now. That is, as usual, followed by an invitation to reflect on what you've read and watched and heard. I think one of the underlying truths that I want to underscore is that all of this is process. This course is a process. Human development is a process. Spiritual faith formation is a process. Martin Buber wrote, "All real living is meeting." By this, I think he meant that human existence is fundamentally about relationships, or as Buber might have said, human existence is fundamentally interpersonal. In that context, I want to underscore that life consists of comings and goings, of ups and downs, of ecstasies and depressions, meetings and farewells. And as a statement of faith, the God who wants the best for us is at work in all these personal interrelationships to bring about good for us and for the world. What we mean by faith and how to live faithfully is in nearly every respect what this whole course is about. As individuals, we are called to live our lives as faithful followers of Jesus. How many times have you heard that? As leaders, pastors, educators, students, we are called to live faithfully and guide others in living faithfully. A big challenge. We are human beings. We affirm as part of our creed that we are created human beings. We believe that we can have a relationship with the Creator who expects us to live a faithful life. And astonishingly, the Creator wants to have a relationship with us. As hard as it may be to get that, we are further astonished by the understanding that we are created in the image of God and called to live faithfully out of and into that powerful, central affirmation, theological affirmation of the church and of Scripture. But what is faith? How is faith developed? How do we live faithfully? What about living faithlessly even as we work to live faithfully? Which is a question I suspect that most of us live with. And what do we mean anyway when we say we have a relationship with God? And the world keeps changing and telling us differently about how we are to live. We affirm these things and, as I often say, choose to live as if they are not simply true, but the truth. As we come to the beginning of a new focus, personal, spiritual, and faith formation practices, we need to find ground on which to do so. The question becomes, how do I live faithfully in a challenging world? Many years ago, Paul Tournier, a Christian counselor psychologist, wrote a book called The Whole Person in a Broken World, a still relevant message from a Christian perspective of how to live in the world as confused and confusing, as broken as this one. He suggests strongly that humans are called and enabled by God to live as faithful whole persons who can serve as healers in the world. We will face this question and many others about faithful living in this course and may find answers in the consideration of discipleship, also known as spiritual formation. As Christians, we affirm that faith is at the center of our lives and our formation as human beings and as Christians. You are invited this week to begin to examine seriously and personally your own journey through the work of Fowler and Palmer. And once again, blessings on the journey.